interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Tell me, what's going on down there?
ET, we are turning this chopper so we can get a clear visual at what's going on here. It's a podcast.
Today we are going to be discussing the future of the Gamera franchise. What is our favorite, most enjoyable kaiju film?
I would say Final Wars, because that movie has it's non-stop action.
No, I would pick Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 74.
All this and more on Kaiju Conversations, talking big every week.
Hey everybody, I am your host, Aztec Productions, and welcome to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I am joined by my co-host and my co-hosts, Justus and ET13 Productions. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. Yeah.
Now, Justus, I understand that you were sick last week, and I hope you're feeling better. How are you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better this week. As I understand, week before last, you had a birthday party, isn't that correct?
I did. I had some family over. I surprisingly got a fair share of some kaiju stuff. I did get a copy of Godzilla Awakening, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to hear that you are feeling better. And now that the whole cast is back and the hosts are ready to get the game plan on, let's start talking about kaiju as a team again. So now we're going to get into the kaiju talk of the day, and that is the future of Gamera. What is the future of the Gamera franchise? How could this work out? Now, Gamera is very well known to the kaiju franchise. He's right up there with Godzilla and Kong, mostly for kaiju fans in general. He's very well known. If you're to ask an American guy who's mostly recognizable faintly with Godzilla and Kong, they won't know Gamera or Ultraman and all that jazz.
Well, I mean, Mystery Science Theater opened the door a lot.
They did. And it was a big show. It was a big show. And you're right, they did open the door to Gamera for a lot of people with their Gamera episodes. True, yeah. I agree with that. But he doesn't have the same recognition as...
I'd say that all the Gamera films are a little bit of a decade late in the fact that all the ones from the 60s and all the Showa films, they weren't really... There was like a first generation of people that really were popular with them here in America with... them they didn't come out for like a number of years, isn't that correct, before they made it on American theaters? Isn't that correct? Like they did.
I don't believe so. I believe they came out. They were TV. They came out on TV first. I know that.
Yeah, and then there was the second generation with the Showa films that was introduced through it by the MST3K, which was the 90s. And then by that point, there was a whole entire another series of Gamera that MST3K didn't go on because, I mean, it was completely different from the Showa series. But that was also a little bit later into the 90s, and by that point, MST3K wasn't really doing anything on Gamera by that point. I think they might have also even stopped airing by that point. So,
the early 90s was when we saw the Gamera movies.
Well, here's the thing: I wouldn't say that they were really popular until the advent of the internet, and where they were more easily accessed through the internet. So that's why I'd say Gamera's pretty much a decade late whenever it comes to all of their series.
Right.
Both of them.
And Mystery Science Theater 3000, they did introduce a lot of people to Gamera, and it was a very popular show at the time. But I think depends on the person you ask and the generation they grew up with Gamera. They can either tell you that he was a kind of cheesy hero. Gamera's in a bunch of crazy things back in his day. Of course, got that gymnastics Gamera clip where he's basically doing the little flip on the pole. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm. Gamera versus Squareon.
Yeah, that was good. That was crazy. That was it was weird. It was weird. It was different, but I'm telling you, when I was a kid, that thing made me laugh super hard, and I was really, really addicted to seeing that scene over and over again because that was really funny back when I saw that. It? Of course I did. It's a freaking giant turtle doing a flip on a pole. Who doesn't laugh at that?
I didn't laugh. I took it serious.
You took it serious. You took Gamera.
You took it that serious.
You took
I don't laugh during giant monster movies.
What? Not even older Gamera movies?
Not even whenever Godzilla in Godzilla versus Smog Monster, all the trippy scenes where everybody's tripping out and everybody has their heads turn into.
How would you laugh?
Yeah, okay, no, yeah, no. I did not laugh at that. I was extremely disturbed by that. I was extremely disturbed by that scene.
That's like.
Okay. Godzilla versus Hedorah was just a whole new level of disturbing for me. Okay, the imagery in that was just too much for me as a kid.
Whenever I was a really young kid, I thought it was slightly disturbing. But now, like not even now, just like a little. Whenever I got a little bit older, I laughed so hard at those scenes.
Okay, I could laugh at how awkward that scene is. It is an awkward scene. But like, oh man, I think I'd rank Godzilla versus Ghidorah. For me, it just creeped me out so much as a kid. Like the music and all. You know, the Hedorah's theme, it's very eerie and creepy. And when he walks during that theme plays, it's just really creepy. That was by far the Godzilla film I was most scared of.
The thing that always creeped me out with Godzilla vs. Hedorah was that once I know it doesn't really make any sense, but do you remember that one scene, or well, I guess it's a shot where Hedorah flies over like a construction building under construction, and there's no audio to it for some odd reason. That was so creepy to me. It
was.
I mean, it's like an uncanny valley type of thing where the model actually doesn't look that bad in that scene, which is I guess which was I got a perfect example of what it felt like watching. It felt like watching an animated segment from The Wall with it looking really, really realistic, but there's these slight things about it that make it feel unnerving because of the fact that it's just slight things that you don't see in real life or that doesn't work in real life. Like with how the animation in The Wall is really good, but it's not perfect as all animation is.
I don't know if I would compare Godzilla versus Hedorah to The Wall because
not completely.
That movie is.
I'm not saying completely.
If you think Godzilla versus Hedorah is mixed up or messed up and crazy, then The Wall is insane.
No, I'm not saying that all of Hedorah is comparable to The Wall. Like whenever it comes to like the movie as a whole, comparing those two, I definitely say The Wall is way more messed up. But what I'm saying is, whenever it comes to comparing like that specific shot to say, whenever that weird dog type thing in Waiting for the Worms bites that one smaller animal, and then he slowly changes into like a humanoid type of thing and has his tongue wrap around the thing that he just bit into. That is like the type of thing I'm talking about. It's very weird and disturbing.
For anybody listening at home, I do not recommend looking this up because it's very, very twisted and weird.
Actually, I would. I would.
Well, now
actually
people want to look
admit
at
Not
it,
for
you know.
kids. It's not for kids, especially a flower scene. Not for kids.
No, not that. Well, I'd say Waiting for the Worms is okay for about a very imaginative 13-year-old.
Imaginative.
And there is a little bit of violence in that and blood, so I wouldn't say for like anyone too young.
Mhm.
But whenever it comes to what is it? The one that you were talking about, the one that has like the flower scene. Yeah, I would not recommend that unless you're of adult. Another one I would recommend for like probably a little bit older is maybe like 15, 14-year-olds is Goodbye Blue Skies, because that has a lot of that's I actually watched that whenever I was 13, so maybe 13 as well. I actually really like Goodbye Blue Skies, but I think I'm getting a little bit off track. Anyways, back to Gamera.
Yeah, but as you were saying, we went from like goofy Gamera to like a really dark, twisted path. My God, how did
it's weird how conversations can just twist and turn into something really strange and out there. Yeah,
we just went from goofy to disturbing that fast. But
they flipped the
what was
coin.
But
we were talking about how Gamera could work in the modern sense.
Right. We were saying if you grew up, some of you might have known as Gamera as the cheesy hero, or if you grew up in kind of that 90s setting, you could have known him as a protector, but maybe towards Revenge of Iris, you could have saw him. Yeah, the 90s, maybe towards Revenge of Iris, you could have saw him as a real awesome kaiju who's really capable of doing much and is, just really menacing in Revenge of Iris. And even though I don't own that film and I'm still on the lookout for Revenge of Iris, and I've only watched tons of reviews just to get from what people have said, I've heard it's that kind of dark actually for not maybe up there with maybe not Gojira and maybe GMK dark, which personally I don't think GMK is that dark. But
I'd say GMK is imaginative. That's what I would say. GMK.
I think the only dark thing about GMK is Godzilla's origins. I don't think there's anything else really that kind of screams like dark.
I mean, the mood is dark, but I wouldn't say nothing like particularly talked about is dark. Like say Final Wars. That's a very dark movie whenever it comes to mooding and lighting, but whenever it comes to like the actual plot of that movie, it's not dark whatsoever.
Yes, it's goofy and weird and outgoing, but fun. But yeah, I think of course a lot of people prefer the 90s Gamera over the much Showa Gamera, but that's just an opinion. I myself prefer the 90s. I don't prefer the Guardian of the Universe Gamera. I don't like that design. I think it's a little more aimed towards children with the cuteness factor of that Gamera. I'm a bigger fan of the Revenge of Iris design, which is a lot more lethal, and it's got the mohawk, and I always love that mohawk design, and it's the eyes, everything about that design is awesome. And I think that brings me to my first point.
Actually, could I say something really quick? I have a unpopular opinion, but in all honesty, if I was going to pop in a Gamera movie, whether it be Showa or 90s, most likely I'd put in a Showa film, mostly just because of the fact that those are a lot more fun. So I guess
they are more fun.
I technically say I kind of like the Showa more whenever it comes to just popping it in, but whenever it comes to like which one I think is better made, better movie.
Like
all
if you
want
to sit down for a really awesome kaiju film, you can really enjoy.
Yeah, I'd say the 90s. But here's the thing as well: if I wanted to do that Aztec, as you were saying, I would probably put in a Millennium Godzilla movie over one of the Gamera the 90s Gamera movie, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Or
GMK I can see. Right. If you want to put like GMK over Revenge of Iris, like I really can't tell you which one, because like I said, I haven't seen the full Revenge of Iris film. But as I've just heard really positive things about it, and then it really kind of did change Gamera for a lot of people from being a kind of, like I said, maybe it went from goofy, he went to kind of like cute, and then he just went full out in Revenge of Iris, like, hey, if you humans are in my way, I do not care. People will die. So he's more of a, how do I say, he's the hero, but he's kind of like Man of Steel, Superman, where he's doing good, but there's lots in his way, and things get destroyed. Really, kind of like I said, Superman and Man of Steel. He's doing his job, but of course, a lot of people have to go down.
Are you saying Man of Steel is a good movie?
That's a debate for another day, Justus. That is a debate for another day. I will debate that. Oh man, we got to do that. We have to do that sometime. But yeah, it's just. I was saying that brings you to my first point. Do you think Gamera has to go back to his dark roots in order to work today?
No.
ET, why don't you think Gamera has to go back to his dark roots in order to work?
Well, I think King of the Monsters is a perfect example. If you look at it from what we've seen so far, it's not a dark Godzilla movie. Well, color scale wise, it's dark, but
like Final Wars.
Yeah, it's not dark at heart.
Right, and I could
just
see
as if they were able to fulfill Gamera as they do now with Godzilla, it would work. I mean, the issue with the Gamera movies is they started to defy the laws of physics and logic with everything. And that's really where Gamera started to go downhill. Because if you notice, it didn't really start to get bad until Gamera versus Gauss. And then after that, it started to go downhill really quick. Because they started to do outlandish, crazy stuff.
Yeah, Gamera versus Barugon. Yeah. Can I go off on a little bit of a tangent? That name is really stupid, in all honesty.
Barugon?
Anyways, yeah, Barugon.
Barugon.
But Barugon is a lot more easy to understand. And I know that's another kaiju. Which came out first? I can't remember. Was it Barugon or Baragon?
What came first, Barugon or Frankenstein Conquers the World?
Anyways,
Frankenstein Conquers the World came out, I believe, the exact same year, if not slightly. Because Frankenstein Conquers the World came out in 1965, and Gamera versus Barugon came out in 1965.
Well, either way, Baragon is a lot more easier to pronounce. A lot more easy to pronounce. And I'm just going to say that right here, right now. Anyways, Gamera versus Barugon wasn't all... It was not as serious as the first Gamera movie, and the first Gamera movie wasn't completely serious like the first 54 movie. But out of all of the other Gamera movies, Gamera versus Barugon and the first Gamera movie, they were actually moderately serious.
Isn't Barugon the one that shoots rainbows out of his back?
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I said moderately.
Did you notice that Barugon and Baragon are exact opposites? One shoots ice or whatever out of his mouth, the other shoots fire.
But their designs are practically the exact same. If you were going to describe both of the designs, if you were going to describe both of the designs with words, you could probably sketch out either or. In all honesty,
well, I mean
that's pretty true. Only the ears are a big giveaway.
Yeah, and
Barugan
plus
is more
the
built of a dog, while Baragon is more of a bear, I would say.
I'd say that Baragon is like a mixture between a bear and a dog, and that's with a horn. That's basically how I
Because
would. If anybody,
Baragon's more
if
bulky.
if nobody had ever seen Baragon, that's how I would describe it. Is a lizard. Well, would you say lizard like? Yeah. No. I'd say a bear mixed with a pug with no hair and a horn attached to its head. That's how I would describe it exactly.
But I'm looking at the two side by side. They do have, how do I say this? Skin deep similarities, such as a
Yeah.
horn, 4 legs, a tail.
Yeah,
and
that's what
something
I'm
on their
saying.
back. But other than that, they do look vastly different, in my opinion.
They do look different, but I'm
Right.
saying if you were going to like describe it to another person, they'd be like,
Right.
"Are you talking about the same kaiju?" And then you would have to be like, "No, these are two completely different kaijus."
Right. But if you're to look at them, I agree, TB. They are different in actual design, but like Justus was saying, that even though there are some dead giveaways for looks, if you were to describe the two creatures side by side, if you were to describe them, I could see how you could confuse the two in similarities.
Actually, I just
Besides
thought
ears, besides ears.
I just thought of the what would mainly distinguish the two. You know how like in different animals, like deer, they have their eyes on the sides of their heads, right? Barugon has that, while Baragon is like us humans, where it's their eyes are looking out straight forward as opposed to side to side.
Also, fun fact, Frankenstein versus Baragon and Gamera versus Barugan were distributed in America by, I believe, the same distributors, AIP.
No.
Hmm.
It's pretty sweet.
Well, what? Yeah, are you still on that site or whatever you're looking at?
No, I'm
Does
just staring at
Well,
two DVDs right now.
Really
Oh,
quick,
okay.
back to what ET was initially saying at first with that King of the Monsters comparison. I agree that King of the Monsters itself is advertised to be much more fun, as when 2014 was advertised to be a little bit more darker with the choir. It's got a little bit more of that darker tone. And King of the Monsters, it's described, it's a little more fun. And they like to play along with the beauties of the Titans and all that. And if Gamera took that route of being a little more of a fun film, you can still keep those dark elements. From what I seen so far, I could see some scenes that could play out kind of dark. You know, soldiers dying in battle aren't always the most lighthearted thing in a kaiju film. But I think it could work out pretty much of a fun remake if Gamera was to be remade. We're gonna get into we'll get into MonsterVerse a little later. That's a bit more of a. Oh, you want to get into MonsterVerse now?
Actually, no. I have a quick question. No, I have a quick question. Do you both think that so far, King of the Monsters is looking more lighthearted than 2014? I would say
Definitely.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, everything about it seems more lighthearted and brighter.
Right. Like I said, they're really advertising the beauty of the Titans instead of 2014, where it's more of the chaos of what Godzilla does to San Francisco. This one, it's more like they still wreck some stuff, but as music implies, and the beautiful TV spot, they're much more elegant in this film.
If Godzilla vs. Kong is even more lighthearted than King of the Monsters, that'll be really funny. Because
that's pushing it.
No. Here's the thing. If they do that, it'll basically do the same thing that the Heisei Gamera films did whenever it comes to like their seriousness, except for doing it the direct opposite. Instead of like the first Heisei film in the trilogy was like the most lighthearted, and then with the final film, it was the most dark. And then with the MonsterVerse, it'll go the direct opposite, with 2014 being the most dark and then Godzilla versus King Kong being the least dark.
There is no
I
Godzilla
think.
I don't know.
versus King Kong.
That just seems a little bit funny to me,
Right, it's Godzilla versus Kong. Thank you, ET.
Yep.
or
Universal
whatever.
copyright.
But
You're in our
was it
minds,
a-
Hulk.
we'll get to that Godzilla. I really wanted to latch on in that Godzilla versus Kong discussion. Well, we'll get to that in a little later. I was saying, just really quick, and we'll discuss really quick about that. I really wanted that to be sold as a not lighthearted, but a little bit more fun of a movie to play along with the fact that it's basically Kong and Godzilla fighting. It being dark, I completely understand, but I don't know why I always depicted it as being the trailers kind of advertised with the music kind of the same. Imagine it had that Kong Skull Island. They played along with a lot of Vietnam War 60s, 70s music, which is really awesome. I love the way they edited those trailers. But imagine that with Godzilla versus Kong as a trailer when that kind of, imagine if they use some sort of rock and roll kind of music like they did in Kong Skull Island. That's kind of how I wanted it to be advertised, but apparently it's going to be much more of a darker film, I believe, by word of Adam Wingard.
Well,
So I don't
Adam
know.
Wingard's known for directing more darker tone movies.
Correct, yeah.
And
I mean, he did.
to be honest, the trailers for Kong Skull Island, the reason they used those songs was because
It was the era.
they had a
Yeah.
message. It wasn't because the era entirely.
Hmm.
It was also a lot because of the message, such as Bad Moon Rising. That's a perfect example. It talks about something bad on the horizon, and you see
Mhm.
Kong. And then, of course,
Mhm.
run through the jungles, talking about the Vietnam War. So the songs do have that influence.
Periods, yeah.
Yeah,
And the same with
but
it's kind of matching up with the film as well, because they do use a lot of period setting songs in that film, especially in the first act. That thing was packed with Vietnam War music. But that was just a cool idea I had. But I know it's not likely to happen because, as you stated, E.T. Adam Wingard is known for directing much darker, serious films, some with even gore.
But
I checked out Death Note for the first time, even though I never watched the anime. And that is gore. Yeah, that was a bit dark. Did keep its lightheartedness. I wasn't a big fan of that film after.
I mean, there's some quite obvious, such as somebody did a War Pigs version, and it was pretty good, and I could see.
Someone did a War Pigs fan version of
Yes.
the trailer. That actually sounds like a great idea, actually. I don't know if that actually sounds really awesome now that I'm thinking about it. War Pigs during a monster trailer. But continue.
I'm trying to think of other ones that could be a good one. I mean, if you wanted to go with a very lighthearted feel, I mean, you could play Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but that seems very, very. The Lord version probably would be better because that's more of a darker tone. But
You know what?
I mean,
that kind of would fit because Godzilla and Kong are fighting for dominance of planet Earth, essentially. So
just a final statement on those trailers. E.T.'s right. Even MonsterVerse trailers do like to hint a lot at the story and the feel. Like King of the Monsters, nobody played. I think it was Claire de Lune for the first trailer,
yes, clarity.
and it was much more of a beautiful song. And for the new beautiful spot, we got Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is a very interesting choice. But I think it played out so great, man. I thought it sounded amazing.
As I think a lot of people have said, they're just showing the beauty and the chaos that these monsters bring. And then when you have the trailer 2, which personally I love the trailer 2 soundtrack. It gives you a Kong Skull Island Comic-Con trailer feel, and it feels fierce and chaotic. And when if they come out with an album, a CD, I want to see that on there because that is I love that. The way the beats is, the dun dun, and then it shows all the footage and the monsters. It fits it so well.
Right. Those were two different moods. Yeah, those trailer 1 and trailer 2 were two very different moods. But man, we got so sidetracked from Gamera. But
I believe
like I
you
said,
never got to my opinions on if Gamera would be
should be
good
dark
as
or not.
a
Yes,
yeah.
continue, Justice.
I feel as though it could work, but not as a movie. I personally don't think it could work as a movie. Sorry, ET, but it's the truth. I don't feel that way, but you could have your own opinion. However, I do feel like as if it could totally work in other mediums, like much like how Godzilla has done like the chibi thing in Japan, with has rebooted that thing in Japan. If any of you follow MIB or anybody who follows stuff like that, they have rebooted that, and I feel like they could totally latch on that idea. I'm not saying they could like rip it off from them, but I'm saying that it's if that does go anywhere and does show up, color palette.
I don't see how that would financially be successful. It seems too childish. If you want to go reboot Gamera, it's proven that the more darker it is, the better. However, I feel like such as the short film we got from 2015 Comic-Con, it doesn't need to be that dark, because that was a dark short film, and it's a shame that that just ended up being a short film. That would have been an awesome movie. However, that's pretty dark considering you see a Gaius's eyeball pop out of its socket, and another one, its eyes got
I'm not
blown up.
saying 54 levels of dark. I'm saying like King of the like what MonsterVerse is doing levels.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying too.
I'm kind of saying Gamera should do what Godzilla is doing, but not. I'm saying don't be like DC and completely copy them, where they like DC just completely, for the most part, copied Marvel and did a horrible job at it. I'm saying there's a certain amount of qualities that you should follow whenever it comes to the MonsterVerse, but don't completely copy them.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say.
I get the darkness. Go ahead, ET.
The problem with the DCEU is it started off on a modest, I'm going to stay there, modest point, and then when they tried to go darker in Batman v Superman and Justice League, people didn't want that. They wanted a more lighthearted superhero movie. That's kind of what audiences want now. That's what they want.
No, you can't even say that, because they tried to be lighthearted in Justice League, and look at how that turned out.
They're lighthearted and look, they went full lighthearted in Shazam, and now it is one of the best. It's the best DCEU movie so far.
So was Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was awful as well.
Yeah, but that was
it wasn't as right. It wasn't as lighthearted. It still had its fair share of creatures and monsters and gunfiring and stuff like that. It still was a little dark for a DC movie. It still had fun, but it was kind of like a violence fun.
And Wonder Woman, they're both very bright. They're lighthearted
movies.
Yes.
Aquaman
is legitimately 2 hours of, I don't even know what you would describe Aquaman. It's crazy.
Water.
I thought water. Weird water physics there.
It was good. I thought Aquaman was good.
I thought it was good. I would not say the same about Wonder Woman. I did not like Wonder Woman, but that's my own opinion. I have not seen Shazam yet, so I can't give my opinion on that. But Aquaman, I did like.
But yeah, I don't.
We were talking about kind of if Gamera were to go dark. You guys gave the example of MonsterVerse level dark. I'll agree with that. I mean, MonsterVerse hasn't gone dark. It hasn't gone too dark, but it has gone to like Kong Skull Island. The helicopter scene. There's the guy who went up into the propeller blades and literally got shredded up in there. That was.
I mean, essentially,
It was violent, and it gave a dark mood to see that someone got killed in that manner. But I have to say, I don't think anyone else got it that bad in the MonsterVerse, like an up
we
close
did
death.
see I can't think the one of the scientists got ripped apart by the psychodactyls, are they called? Or whatever the small little.
Oh yeah, you're right. His arm got torn off, didn't it?
I mean, that was pretty violent too.
Right, that was violent. I think Kong
I'd
Skull
say,
Island is the darkest, not the
It's the
darkest
most
in feel.
violent out of all
Correct.
of them.
It
I'd
doesn't
say
have
the most-
2014 has the darkest
darkest,
feel.
but
Right.
the
Yeah.
most violent Skull Islands because
It gives
it's more of a
an
down to
yeah.
earth.
It's
Would
more
you
of a
say
fun
that's-
film. It's a more fun film, but has its fair share of violence. 2014 doesn't have that much violence, but it's much more of a darker tone in the sense that creatures are going to basically kill everyone in the city if
From
they get
so
there.
far what
Really-
we have seen, I would also say that visually it is much darker. And
Yeah.
the fact that 2014 had a much darker color palette.
Yeah,
But
and
I
think-
mean, I guess a good description is Godzilla 2014 is the Jurassic Park where it's dark, but it's still kind of lighthearted, but not really. And then you have The Lost World where it's very violent. You see a lot of could be disturbing stuff to people, such as a scientist getting his arm bit off by a T-Rex as he's eaten, and his blood's flowing through a waterfall. And that
Yeah.
could be Kong Skull Island. And then you have Jurassic Park 3, which is a B movie that's not good. And then King of the Monsters is kind of that lighthearted, fun movie, except it's 20 times better.
Yeah, we might see a couple violent scenes from what I heard. No, I'm not going to give this away. It was a description.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, there was a
No
description from today's.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want
There's
to hear
a-
it. I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm not going to give it away.
From WonderCon.
And it was a little dark, and it had to do with Ghidorah and soldiers, but I'm not going to give it away. But I'm saying that could also fit into that.
Well, we'll leave it at that.
Right, yeah.
Do you remember in the first trailer where it had one of Ghidorah's rays going through like the side of a hallway?
Yeah, I
Through
remember
the
that.
field as
Yeah,
Millie Bobby
does it
Brown's
pause-
running away.
Yeah. Wait, is it confirmed that that's Millie Bobby Brown? I thought it was just we
Yeah,
didn't know.
Very obvious in the trailer. It's Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh,
And plus, from what we
Well,
know, she's in the
never mind.
stadium, and it's probably that whole scene with Millie Bobby Brown running as his gravity beams go through and him just destroying the field and all that. That's all connected.
by the way, that seems totally not to size, and I don't really understand that. If Ghidorah shoots his gravity
I know
beams,
that-
it would be much
that-
bigger than that.
That tripped me out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if he was blasting it at the.
You know what
I don't
that
know
makes
where.
me think? That makes me think that is like a scene where he's breaking out of the ice that he's in,
Like,
and somehow whenever he's breaking out of the ice and he's just starting he's basically stretching whenever you're after basically how a person stretches and isn't entirely there whenever they wake up in the morning.
Uh-huh.
He's not completely there, so his gravity beams aren't
I think
at
it could
the
be
full
like
potential.
it could be like Millie Bobby Brown at Fenway Park, and she's probably inside the stadium, and Ghidorah probably blows up Fenway Park, and she's just trying to escape. And I guess as the beams are going up, it enters a bunch of doors. I guess I don't know. That's really
I was thinking
confusing.
that it's just at the Ghidorah wherever they're
Well, when
Keeping
when
and
it
that
you
was
look
confirmed. It's
in the
Fenway Park.
background, you can see it's an obvious stadium. It's very clear if you
and
look
and
in
it was
the background and everything.
it was confirmed that it's Fenway, the home of the Boston Red Sox. So we know that takes place in Boston, of course, at the Boston Red Sox Stadium. So that's we know that.
what
That
Ghidorah
is-
or
yeah,
what?
We know-
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
what?
But
Wait, where's Mothra at then?
Who knows?
We know that Mothra's going to be in
all
the final
mystery.
battle. I think
No,
Mothra will.
I mean,
Yeah,
like, where was her egg at?
It's
China.
at
I
it's
thought
in the
she
China.
was.
Yunnan
I thought she was at the stadium.
No, she's
Yunnan
at the
province of China.
Yunnan province. Yeah, in the Temple of the Moth.
Well, that's what. I mean, there was
And
like
then that
railing
hatches,
whenever in the trailer.
and then
for
Mothra
whenever it's-
larvae becomes Mothra.
Well, the thing that confused me was like in the trailer, there's railing and around where like Millie Bobby Brown is like reaching out to Mothra, and I was thinking, wait, this seems more like a stadium type of feel than whatever you just said.
Yeah, no, that was the inside of the Temple of the Moth. It's the
that's
base.
what confused me. That's what confused me.
Right, and we talked a little
Anyway,
bit. We
get
talked a
back
lot of
to
MonsterVerse.
Gamera.
We should just call this podcast Gamera and a little bit of MonsterVerse because this is a lot of MonsterVerse for a Gamera episode. But
We'll come back to
just a
Gamera
tiny
a
bit
little
of
bit, or not
Monsterverse. Just a
Gamera,
tiny-
MonsterVerse. a little later.
MonsterVerse. It seems like we're gonna get to Gamera in a little bit, but we something I wanted to discuss is if Gamera was to have a film reboot, who would be the main villain? And two options I had. The obvious option is, of course, Gauss as the main villain, but we've seen it before in Guardian of the Universe, basically a rebooted film with Gauss basically as the main villain again. And I believe Guardian and they spread out. Then they multiplied into many Gauss as the franchise went on. But do you
I
think
guess
if
you could say
Gamera,
they're a legion of Gauss.
No.
Yes, that just happened. A legion of Gauss. But I think if the film were to be rebooted, I could see two options because there's no really other Gamera creature that you could take much more in a modern day kind of realistic tone or setting than Gauss himself. Like you can't do all the some you can do.
Zetus, you could do.
Yeah,
Zetus.
most likely like Zetus and some others. I forgot what's the name of the one that just has the big knife for a face.
Guiron.
Guiron.
Yeah.
I think Guiron can also work as well. But if you want to make like,
Knifehead?
I was about to make that joke, but now I see the consequences of it. But I think if you were to make a main villain and reboot it again, I think Gauss would work, or like that
The brand
fan
new
film, like the short film advertised a brand new monster, even though that never happened. I think it'd be a great idea for Gamera to have a new matchup, and it'd be awesome to see. And the creativity can literally go anywhere. Gamera has some crazy looking villains from the past, so they could really make something new here. But go ahead.
If they were to reboot the original monsters, I would rather they do some sort of Pacific Rim-esque way of like the reason these all look weird and outlandish is because they're from aliens, you know?
Mhm.
But
Yeah, that I would kind of agree with that idea. I think that could be
No.
a logical explanation.
granted, you're going to have to modernize them a lot because people aren't going to
Mhm.
take a two-legged monster that has ninja stars in his
Well, I mean-
head.
I mean, Gaius, you wouldn't really have to do that too much because
No.
they've
Gauss
already
and
Marugan
modernized them.
and Zetus and Iris and
I
Legion.
think Gauss you can make really similar to Rodan, but not too similar. Design
Yeah.
can change a lot, but you
Just
considering
just
on how
take-
they're portraying, considering on how they're portraying Rodan in 2019, I think that Gauss could just really work as an evil pteranodon-like alien creature. I don't know.
just rip the Rodan model from
Well,
Godzilla
no,
King of the
just
Monsters and
tweak
copy
it.
and paste it,
Give him a
and
bigger
take
head.
out the head and put him
Yeah.
put on a different head.
There you go.
and
You got
the wings would
Smash
have
him in the face with the iron. Do that.
in the top of the head, make it flatten out.
Yeah.
Oh man, I know. Oh man, I'd love to
But-
see a modern adaptation of Gauss's freaking top of his head. That'd be great.
I just imagine
know-
like there's like an animated version of, you know how there's like animated versions of movies on YouTube like
Mhm.
as parodies. I imagine that
Yes.
somebody does that, and then they like have King Ghidorah like throw a anvil on top of Rodan's head, and for just the rest of the video, he looks like Gaius instead.
Looks like Gauss.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. But ET,
You know-
I know you're trying to say something. Go ahead.
If they were to reboot it, honestly, if they just changed it so all the monsters were aliens, I don't think
Yeah.
that would be too out of the realm of possibilities.
Right. I mean, I know Ghidorah might be an alien in the upcoming King
They
of the Monsters.
confirmed that he's not of this world, so he's
Right, he's not
an
a-
alien.
He might be
entity.
otherworldly. Right. So if that
'Cause
is true, then
I mean,
I think they
people-
could definitely go with Gamera, outlandish Gamera alien villains.
people
could
use
work.
the term alien as something from outer space. However, really and honestly, alien just means not of this location, not of this
Right.
world. It's something we don't know about. That's what an alien is. Same with the UFO. It's not a
Mhm.
disc that flies in space. It's an
Although they-
unidentified flying object.
They might give it a code name, like they did with Muto in King of the Monsters. They might not call it an alien, because I know the film, from what I've seen, they don't really like to call Ghidorah an alien in this film, so they might give him a code name, like they did with Muto, massive unidentified terrestrial organism. So they might give it
Well,
a
Titans is what they're going to be called, and that probably
Right.
stands
But-
for.
right. Ghidorah hasn't really been called a Titan though. If you go on his Monarch page, they never really call him a Titan. They just use words like reptile, like serpent, or things along those lines. But I'm pretty sure something in Titan has to do with Earth-based. You know what I mean? Because they haven't really. Ghidorah's name isn't Titanus Ghidorah; it's Monster Zero on the website. So I found that kind of strange. But yeah. So I think aliens could work, possibly. It's just the designs that are a big you know what I mean? Like you said, Zetus and all. I don't know. A lot like the squid and everything about Gamera's foes just really scream weird. You know what I mean? It's just a very different looking kaiju in these films. So
You know which Gamera movie out of the Showa films I hadn't seen until like way later on in my life, because there wasn't an MST3K episode about it. So I
Super
didn't really
Monster?
see any cut of it. No, I had seen Super Monster around the same time as whenever I binge watched all the other ones, but the one I didn't see until way
Oh,
later
the
on
Brave.
was the no, not the Brave. Whatever is the
Oh.
one that has, what's the one that has the weird monster that comes out of like a totem pole or something, or like a statue?
Jiger.
Which one is that?
Gamera versus
Jiger.
Jiger.
That's it.
Also known
I had not seen that one till like way later on.
Which one's the shark? Which one's the giant shark? Like
Zy-
That's
Zigra.
Zetus. Oh wait, I
as
thought that
Zygra.
was Zetus. No, Zetus
Yeah,
is
that-
that's
that
something
one, I
completely
think
different.
is the most. If we're gonna remake that, I think that one will be the most challenging. His name's, what did you say, Zygra?
Zygra. Mm-hmm.
Zygra.
Zegra.
That's a funky looking design right there. It's like a shark, whatever. Imagine that in a modern day screen. You think they could pull? You think they can pull
Yes.
some outlandish
Yeah,
Gamera designs
They could
off?
pull it off.
Basically, if you modernize any of the Gamera monsters, it could work. Really and honestly,
I don't-
if you do a Pacific Rim stance, it would work out perfectly.
Okay, actually, no. There's one thing I have to disagree on. I don't think you can do a modern Zegra that can go on land. I don't think you can do that where he's like standing on land. That's gonna look stupid no matter what.
That if they
It
change
depends
the
on
point of where he can be both land and sea, like having
kind of like
webbed.
Godzilla, right?
I'd say,
But, yeah, they
by that
couldn't
point,
do it.
I'd say that you changed the design so much, you might as well make it a different kaiju.
Like
Well,
you
to
can
make
change a
money.
design not to the point where he looks too much like a literal walking shark. You got to make him look a little more organic. You know, don't make him look like the fins. He can have the fins, but don't make him look like he's literally just two fins in front of him that he claps all the time. The way the original looked, he didn't really have hands.
That
It
looks
was just
so
two
bad.
fins that were outwards
That
the
looks
entire
so
film.
bad. That looks
Give
so bad.
him, like ET said, give him like some web kind of stuff. He could have arms, but give him webs on the bottom, kind of resembling fins maybe. Or give him fins, but maybe claws at the end, but make sure they don't stick out 24/7 like the original did. It's like some designs, they could work if you're to modernize it in a way where it doesn't look too like it doesn't belong there. You know, like we said, Ziegler or whatever. If you made him a literal giant shark-looking aquatic creature like they did in the original, he's not going to fit in modern day because audience are going to laugh thinking there's a freaking giant walking shark with fins just hanging there. He doesn't really do anything with them. If they were to make it to a point where these creatures can move around very organically, like I said, when I picture Zager, mostly some of Gamera's foes, Guiron, like we're saying, the one with the knife head, I believe it was. I can't picture them moving organically as a CGI model. I know that's hard to understand. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they wouldn't look as organic like a modern kaiju. If I were to just basically take that design, modernize it, same shape, it wouldn't look good. You know? You gotta change a lot, really.
I don't think... Do you think that any of the original kaiju in King of the Monsters is going to be on four legs? Quick question.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
think that... Do you think
I
they
think
will?
that
Or is that
Rodan will be quadrupedal when walking. He could stand on two legs, possibly, but from what we've seen, they're.
Do you think any kaiju will always be like that, though?
The mountain kaiju
Wait, yes.
that we've seen.
Yeah.
The mountain kaiju looks like it walks on four legs. Is it the way it was positioned?
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
any of the main four in the film. No.
I don't think the mountain kaiju will get a lot of screen time then, because think about it.
No.
The more contact you have with your surroundings, that means the more you're going to have to sink into the budget. So
A $200 million budget?
Maybe, I don't know.
Honestly, with the budget they've
anyways,
got, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
Well, here's the... Well, I'm saying for like other movies, it's a lot more harder to do a four-legged monster because of the fact that it interacts with the environment a lot more, because there's a lot more there's more area where it's touching its surroundings literally twice as much. So that's why I would think it's a lot more expensive to do a four-legged whatever rather than a two-legged, or even something like King Ghidorah or Rodan where they're in the sky, or Mothra.
Weren't the Mutos four-legged?
Yes. No.
Kind
one was
of.
six-legged. One was six, one was four.
One was four. I remember the.
Well, the thing was, they didn't show
the female.
They didn't show the feet.
The female looked like it had like her
six.
back. It was six. 'Cause to me, it looked like her back legs kind of crossed her front legs. It was kind of a weird design. Now the male walks on fours from what I've seen. And
Yep.
it could
Well,
be
here's
the
the
same
thing.
with Mothra.
Think about it like this. Whenever you saw like the feet of feet in quotation marks of the Mutos, it was usually in the final battle. Maybe they didn't even show. Well, in very long shots, like from a building's perspective, you could have seen like the female's feet on the ground, and I imagine that was pretty expensive to show that. But whenever it comes to all the other scenes, it was usually in close-up shots. Like, for example, whenever they're in the Las Vegas Strip, and the one like the male, is it male or female? Which one is the bigger one? Female is the bigger one. Okay, yeah. The female one like stomps her feet or whatever through the ceiling of that one casino. That was a close-up shot. That was not like you couldn't see all the other legs. And also, for example, on the railroad tracks, again, you did not see all the feet. You just saw.
Well, do you know why that's that way?
Well, I mean, it's on top of a bridge, but why?
Well, it's because of the style that was made. Unlike King of the Monsters, where you're going to clearly see the monsters, Gareth Edwards went for more of a down-to-earth perspective. That's why you never see the monster in full. So that's kind of why it's that way. It's not because they didn't want to go with it that way. It's because they filmed it to look like you can record that with your phone.
I imagine that was partially the reason why they did that. Well, not exactly partially the reason. I think that they could have said, hey, let's not do as many shots where it actually has them connecting to the ground as opposed to a upward shot where we could save a little bit of money not having to show the surroundings. Do you get what I mean? Like, you could convey the same thing through a different shot is what I'm saying. And it'd be less expensive. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. But a four-legged creature, like you were saying, it could be a little complicated to do modern day. Like, can you think of I guess the male Muto, but I wouldn't choose him as a model for like if we wanted to do a MonsterVerse Anguirus, and he would be walking on four legs. But can we? I don't know if I could think of
actually, I haven't seen Rampage, but actually, don't a lot of monsters in that? Actually, I think all of the monsters in that movie.
All of them walk on.
Except for technically George, he like would go back and forth, but all of the other ones.
I think George would only switch stance if you were climbing or beating his chest, maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Kong in 2005. He was the same. He wouldn't really stand
How
on
was
two
the
legs.
CG? How was the CG in that movie? I haven't watched it yet.
Great, amazing, beautiful.
It was good. And like the mocap for George was pretty good with close-ups of like one of my favorite shots. It was like a close-up of Lizzie as she's approaching on soldiers, and they're shooting at her, and then she eventually steps on like two of them. But it's like I like the CG in that film. It's pretty good, especially Lizzie. Like I said, I thought she looked really good in that film.
Did it show a lot of like the feet interacting with the ground in a lot of shots?
There was a scene. I mean,
was there a lot of overhead shots to where you could see that?
There was a few overhead shots, but I don't. Like you could see, like when Lizzie came out of the water, you could clearly see her like climbing out of the water.
But see, the issue with that is they're filming it and it's in close quarters. Like, a better comparison would be Pacific Rim, because there's a lot of scenes in that where they're in wide open spaces. Rampage, you're enclosed in Chicago. King of the Monsters, they were aiming for more of a down-to-earth perspective. I mean, it'd be really hard because, like, even the wolf it's in the forest and concealed by the trees, so it's kind of hard to see him in full.
Well, now that I think about it, I think it also has to do with partially the rule of thirds in filmmaking and the fact that you're not really supposed to show just feet unless it's for a really good reason.
Right.
Like in Pacific Rim, where it shows Knifehead swimming through the water. That's an example of where you wouldn't really show the face. You would show more of the other parts of the body rather than the face, because the face isn't really important in that shot.
Right. And I love that shot, by the way. That's one of my favorite shots in the film.
Agreed. Even though it
but
doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Because of the fact that like they can't. They clearly can't stand up in that, but later on they stand up clearly. So, but I do love that.
But I think it was a good sense of size. That's what rocked about that shot. Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't know. I mean, Gamera. For Gamera, I'd love to see some of those sense of scale shots too, like they did in that the short film, where he crashes down and the boy's looking up, and then it's a kind of not a wide shot really, but yeah, a bit of a wide shot of the boy, basically compared to Gamera's lower body as his thrusters are shutting off. Basically, shots like that. I'd love to see a Gamera movie with that kind of shots and imagery. This could. As a dark film, like I said, if it was like ET said, that would have been an awesome film if it were to actually happen. Sadly, it wasn't really a trailer. It was more of a short film. Like I said, it was a concept. I think it was for some sort of. It was for an anniversary, correct? Something for.
It was to show the fans of Gamera that, hey, we got the rights to this. We're gonna do something with it, and I guess it didn't get the press it wanted to get. So they ended up just saying it was a concept trailer and now it's a short film. So there you go. Yeah. 30th anniversary Gamera film. It's amazing.
Nothing like honoring the fans and saying we got the rights, but it's not happening. I think how would you guys do it? Me personally, when it comes to the villain, and if we're gonna jump back to that for a bit, would you probably remake a villain or would you make a new one? I'd make a new one.
Yeah.
Just it'd be a little more interesting. We've seen these villains before. Gauss is the only one that they could really do and say, let's start off with this one because he is not only one of the main ones. But others can work.
See,
others can work.
That's the issue. Is Gaius is the main one. There's Gamera versus Gaius, Gamera versus Guiron, Gamera Guardian of the Universe, Gamera Attack of Legion, Gamera Revenge of Iris, Gamera the Brave. That's 6 of the movies out of like 7 others.
Well, I mean, plus he's already been remade, so you can kind of get
Gauss has been remade before, and everyone thinks that he is
that more serious tone, so you can get more of a better understanding of what you could do with him first, considering he has already gotten that done.
Maybe what I would do in that case is have Gauss at the end, hype him up as the next monster. At first, create your own original monster for Gamera to fight. Get people to go see it. They're like, I've never seen this monster.
Like the Mutos?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the Mutos. Like, we never seen Godzilla battle these guys.
Yeah. And then in Gamera 2, after you've hyped up Gauss, have Gauss, and then you could do the other minor kaiju, or maybe just make an overarching villain, as they did in the Heisei films, and make them smaller, and all that.
Would you ever build Gauss as a big bad villain for a finale?
No. I personally think Iris or Zetus would be better.
Iris, you think the thing about Iris is I don't feel like he should be remade. I feel like it's a little too let's saying I want to remake, let's say, Megaguirus for a whole new. Some kids say it could work, but there's that majority saying that's more of a Millennium film. I say give it some time. Yeah, it'd make more sense to remake some of the more classic sides. Like even people saying Destroyer being remade is pushing it a little too much.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like the Heisei
is out of the Showa Gamera films. There's no big bad. There really isn't. They're all weak.
technically they're remaking Rodan and King Ghidorah from the Heisei series because of the fact that that was the latest time that we saw both of those kaiju. Hey!
Godzilla,
Oh, actually, wait.
GMK, and Final
GMK,
Wars.
except for GMK. So, oh yeah, that's
And
true.
Final
So technically,
Wars.
even
And Final
earlier.
Wars.
So technically, even earlier. Haha. But if you're talking about the original time, then you still have a point. But if you're talking about the latest time, then you don't have a point there, Aztec. Haha.
Well, it was when they were first introduced to the audience. It was when they were first introduced to the audience. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were to make Destroyer and the Showa, then reboot him in the Heisei, people would be like, "Oh, there's, I guess destroying the monster and the monster was to be okay because he's more of a first generation classic Godzilla villain." It's the same as with let's say if Mechagodzilla was first introduced in the Heisei era, would you think people would still want him as more as they'd want him? If Mechagodzilla was first introduced in the Heisei era, do you think that people would want him more in the MonsterVerse than they do now?
Yes.
Kind of think of it that way.
No, not really. Well, I mean,
right? Because he's more of a first generation Godzilla villain. He's more respected.
Here's kind of an idea I've had, and since we did get confirmation just a few weeks ago that the MonsterVerse is planned to continue, I was asked what possibly could Godzilla fight that's stronger than Kong?
Don't say Mechagodzilla.
Mecha King Ghidorah.
No.
Well,
no
see,
mechas.
what they could
Zero
do
mechas.
is they
then
could
why do you bring up
do
mechas?
Gamera. Bring Gamera in.
We wanted to discuss that. Yes, ET, I'm glad you brought that up. Continue before we get into that MonsterVerse.
We've got basically a confirmation. The Oxygen Destroyer. Excuse me.
It's a legit confirmation.
Rip off Dollar General version of Oxygen Destroyer.
It's called the Oxygen. I forgot what it's called.
I don't know. Don't tell me.
Yeah, it's not
Oxygen Separator.
Anyway,
Oxygen Separator is best Oxygen Destroyer.
Anyway, you're setting up Destroyer kinda in this, and then the next phase, I guess, if you want to put it into Marvel terms, the next phase is hyping up Gamera and Godzilla. I mean, that would be an awesome movie. In the end, you hype up that Destroyer is now been born, and then in the next phase, I don't know, have Mechagodzilla, because by then you're in the future, and now you're like, okay, let's go on, modernize, and then at the end have Destroyer, Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla make it 2 parts. You know, the first part, Destroyer comes at the end. They destroy Mechagodzilla. Godzilla's deeply wounded, and Godzilla retreats. Oh no, what's going to happen? And then you have Godzilla versus Destroyer, in which, if you didn't want to go with the Destroyer monsters for the big finale, have Godzilla fight Destroyer. And that would be a good bookend, because you could have Godzilla die in that one, the same you have him die in 95.
Could I say something really quick about mechas? Okay, potentially a mecha could make sense if it was like the anime trilogy, but like they actually made a mecha, but not like a city.
What point do they have in the MonsterVerse?
You could actually make it realistic. Well, I mean, you could make it realistic by saying it's nanites, and the nanites just take a form that seems intimidating to Godzilla, so it does like a copycat thing. Kind of like how a beta fish, whenever it looks into a mirror, it starts to flare up. Do you get what I mean?
But again, like, to back that up, these movies would be in like 2035, 2040. So by then, it may make more sense to have a giant robot, because we don't know what technology will be. In all honesty, I think nanites, although like the nanites,
it all depends.
Is actually something that I could see plausibly happening in real life, in all honesty, because of the fact that there's there's not really a limit to what you could do with nanites per se.
I
in all
think it all
honesty.
depends. It all depends on how you want to portray the character of the mechas, like Mechagodzilla. If you wanted to make him evil, maybe pursue the nanites idea. But if you were to be good and Godzilla were to somehow, I guess, switch sides, so from good to evil, which we know he's technically good now in the MonsterVerse.
Well, I mean, in
after
the
a bunch-
Heisei films, he was kind of not bad or good,
Well,
and they still made a Mechagodzilla in that series.
He kind of was bad throughout that whole
Well,
thing.
I
he
know
was
that, but he
destined
was
to destroy Japan.
kind of good, but kind of not.
Yeah.
He was in the middle throughout the
I
whole
mean,
entire Heisei
essentially,
film.
he was
That's how
going
I
to
put
kill
it.
the entire Earth. Like, legitimately, he was going to destroy
That
the
wasn't
entire
his.
Earth.
That wasn't his fault. That wasn't his
But they
fault.
still had to.
Plus, to
I mean,
continue
it's-
on with that, Godzilla is a anti-hero, and I'll fight for
Yeah.
that for days.
I'll
Mhm.
He
I'll
has
actually
good
agree to that.
intentions, but he destroys stuff and does bad stuff.
yeah.
He kills people more than he does save them, probably.
In all honesty,
I don't
technically
think
every
his-
single hero that you can think of, you could probably be argued to be a anti-hero in the fact that they do, like Superman could be argued to be a anti-hero in the fact that whenever he fights, he does cause
Man
a
of
lot of
Steel,
property
Superman.
damage. Yeah, property damage.
Spider-Man.
I think it's Godzilla. He doesn't really necessarily want to save. I don't think he cares much for humanity. I just think he's gonna protect the Earth in general because that's his job to keep the balance. He's gonna protect the Earth, and he doesn't really care much on who stands in his way. You know what I mean? Like if Ghidorah is in front of him, and in the middle of him and Ghidorah are a bunch of humans, and they're coming right at each other, I don't think Godzilla would give a crap. He'd just squish every single person.
You know,
down there.
I don't know if I said it in here or if I was on a conversation with somebody, but essentially the way we look at ants is what Godzilla looks at us. He doesn't care about us. If he steps on us, he doesn't care. And
What
Yeah.
do you want us to make Godzilla our pet?
It's
No,
just like,
we
you know
would
what?
be-
This is going back to Gamera too. From Gamera 3, he's more of not a hey, I'm gonna protect humanity. He's more of a hey, I'm gonna protect Earth, but if humanity stands in my way, then oh crap, that's their fault. They're basically gonna get killed. His job was to basically stop the Gauss in I believe it was when we first introduced to Gamera. And we see people dying in that sequence. There are explosions, they're dying, but it's just Gamera doing his job. I think it's the same with
'cause
Godzilla.
that's-
It's Godzilla doing his job,
Well,
but
I
people
mean-
are just in his way.
Gamera isn't really like the guardian of the. He's
universe.
the guardian.
That's an
He's the
overstatement.
guardian of the. He's the guardian of the Earth. He's not the guardian of humans. He's the guardian of
Humanity.
the Earth. No, he's
Yeah,
not
I
the
think-
guardian of humanity.
Because
he's not the
the
guardian.
reason he was made was because the Atlanteans needed something to protect them, so they engineered Gamera, and
Mhm.
Gamera then fought stuff and killed. giant
Namor
monsters.
and Aquaman came together, and they both put their brains together, and they were like, "Hey, we need a huge kaiju beside that one crab thing you got."
At the end of Aquaman.
Yeah, it's like this is how they connect the DC It's just the MonsterVerse is like a
Monsterverse.
post-apocalyptic version of the DC universe.
The DCU. If anything, it feels like the DCU is a post-apocalyptic version of the MonsterVerse. If Shazam and Aquaman never happened. But anyways, other than that, yeah, we made that Gamera Godzilla comparison. I really think that's how it's gonna go. I mean, not how it's gonna go. How Godzilla and Gamera's intentions are kind of the same. Not specifically Gamera Showa, where he's just hey children, blah blah blah, but more of like a Gamera 3 Gamera, where he doesn't really care much. He's just getting his job done. I view Godzilla in the same way, even if he's a lot lighthearted in films. He's like, there's a monster in my way. It's time to kill it because that's what I do. Oh, humans are in my way. I still have to fight through this city or whatever setting, and humans will die, but I still got the job done. I kind of view MonsterVerse Godzilla that way. That's how I see him.
It's a force of nature.
Right, he's a force of nature.
Tsunamis don't happen to knock down an industrial city. They don't care about humans. They're just there to do what they do and get out. Same with tornadoes and earthquakes. Godzilla just comes in, does what he wants to do, and leaves. He doesn't care.
Right. I really don't think.
Well, I mean, I think that's debatable. I think that's
he might view humanity as a lighter side, knowing that humanity and Godzilla will team up in King of the Monsters. I don't think he's gonna get the gist until he actually sees the military not engaging Godzilla and possibly Ghidorah, and he's gonna be like, "Hey, they're probably on my side." He won't see him say it or think it, but he'll probably, understand. And like he did
until
in
they play that record that's in the Monarch Sciences
and
lab where they play it and it plays weird scratching noises, and then Godzilla yells to Rodan, "Hey Rodan, help me out over here. Mothra, you better get there."
Okay, here's what I would compare Godzilla to and what exactly he fundamentally is. I wouldn't say he's a force of nature. I would compare him to the character Galactus from the Marvel Universe, whereas Galactus is at a universal level, whereas Godzilla is just at a planet-based level, a earthly level.
But see, the reason Galactus does it is to survive. He needs to eat planets to survive.
Well, I mean, in the first Godzilla movie, he did it because... Well, first he did it because he was... Yeah, he did it. Well, not exactly. He did it because... no, that he didn't really know why the H-bomb...
He technically didn't like humans.
Well, I mean, not really. Well, here's
I would compare Godzilla to a lion.
No, I wouldn't really do that.
A lion
such a random statement.
And a human walks in, there's going to be issues. Because Galactus feeds on planets for reasons. He picks.
Well, I mean, Godzilla goes to the city for reasons. He doesn't just pop up there like, "Hey, I'm here now." He like in the first film, the reason why he went there is because he got out of there was the atomic bomb that led him out of his lair in the bottom of the ocean, and then after he went back to the sea, they dropped depth charges to try and kill him, and that didn't work. But he saw that, hey, they tried to kill me, so I need to make sure that they don't try and do that again, because what if they do something even worse? And eventually they did do something even worse, which was the oxygen destroyer.
And to stay
I should make sure that they don't kill me.
Right. To stay on topic, does anyone have any final statements on Godzilla? Because we really want to close out with Gamera here.
Mm-mm.
All right. So, aren't the Showa origins and the I guess you could say Heisei origins? They're different, correct? With Gamera being in Antarctica.
Showa is more of a natural cause born from the atomic bomb, while Heisei is more of a
made protector.
And then Gamera the Brave is whatever.
Something else. Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah, just shove that. If we had time and we put animations, it would be me shoving Gamera the Brave. Just get out, because you're good, but you're worthless.
Right. You never even got the OG Gamera roar in that movie. It's just a cheap knockoff roar. And you got the cute. If you thought that freaking I hated cute Gamera and Guardian of the Universe, just wait until you see Gamera the Brave. Just wait until you see that design. That is probably... And I think it shifted from Gamera 3 to Gamera the Brave, correct? That was the next Gamera film after that. So that's quite the hell of a turnaround.
It was a 7-year hiatus.
Actually, wait. I know. I have the perfect analogy of what the Gamera from Gamera. Which one is it? Which one is the one where he like has the most googly eyes. I can't remember the
Gamera the
names
Brave?
for.
Gamera the
Yeah,
Brave.
Gamera
he has
the
big
Brave.
eyes.
Gamera the Brave is the eyes look like how girls in most anime have like really weird eyes, and I don't like that. I don't like that. That's exactly what he
But-
looks like,
It's
doesn't it?
kind of
Aztec?
true.
Listen,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like
Alita
that.
the Battle
In
Angel
real
Gamera
life,
version.
that
Oh,
Gamera is a rocker
Oh,
because he
no.
loves
No.
Africa. He loves to hold that line, you know.
Wait, what?
He's
What?
he's a
I haven't
true
seen
blesses the
Gamera the
wind.
Brave, and I was just
And
confused by
down
that
in
statement.
Africa, it's gonna take a lot to take him away from you.
exactly.
He blesses the winds down in Africa.
And he holds the line.
We're gonna
Aztec,
get
I take it you
copyright for
haven't
me
seen.
saying that.
Yeah, we're gonna get copyrighted. Have you not seen Gamera the Brave?
No, but I know that you just sang copyright song by Toto.
Exactly, and in Gamera the Brave, he's called Toto. So
Oh,
yeah.
what a connection. Yeah, I didn't
So
get
he
that. I'm
loves
sorry.
to party down in Africa while holding that line, you know.
It's just Baby Gamera flying to the instrumental of that song, I could say. I don't want to get caught. And I mentioned those Godzilla chibi stuff because I wanted to talk about if Gamera could enter any sort of other media and possibly go into animation. You know that Godzilla has gotten into anime recently, and although I'm not the biggest fan of anime, I don't watch it on a regular basis. The only anime I've watched basically is the Godzilla anime series, and I don't know really how I feel about those. I honestly don't know. But do you think Gamera could enter any sort of anime or animated TV series, kind of like a Godzilla the series, kind of like that, and still be really respected?
I will answer that question with a question. Are you asking, do you think they should do that, or are you asking, do you think they would do that?
Do you think they should, and would they work if it was, or you could ask both, like ET just said.
I do not think they should, but I think they're going to because of the fact that Godzilla did it. So,
and Ultraman's doing it too.
But see,
Ultraman's doing it too. So
the problem is Ultraman's been doing it. They've been doing that for almost a decade now of anime Ultraman, if not longer. And the
does
problem
it work? Go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
Ultraman, it works perfectly. But see, Ultraman's made for anime. You can do an anime Ultraman, and it works. And I watched a video essay, and what they said I do agree with, that anime focuses mostly on mechs, and there's lots of reasons.
Let's be honest here. You can practically do anything you want with Ultraman, in all honesty. You can
to a certain extent.
No, I'd say you can't.
There's some stuff you can't break the barrier with, but you can do a lot with Ultraman.
I'd say that you can do practically anything with it. I'm not saying that you should do those things. Some of those things.
Mm-hmm. But I think that, like Justus said, it's eventually going to happen, some way or form of Gamera going into some sort of animated realm, whether it's...
The problem is...
kind of like the chibis were a good idea.
Godzilla, because the whole reason Gamera was made is Godzilla was financially successful.
Yeah.
And everybody was doing them. The Godzilla anime, they are some of the lowest grossing Godzilla movies of all time, that it's almost not worth trying to replicate that, because if Godzilla, the biggest name in Japan, both literally and verbally, like, when in Japan, Godzilla is probably the biggest icon they have.
I mean, they're literally, isn't he like literally their...
He's the ambassador of Japan for all tourists.
Yeah, that's it.
Godzilla is huge in Japan. If he can't even break the lowest grossing Godzilla movie of all time that's not adjusted for wait, is it adjusted for inflation? It may not be, but anyway, if Godzilla can't even make a lot of money as a anime series and get critically panned by so many people and get mixed reviews from his home country, Gamera can't do anything. Gamera's always been below Godzilla when it comes to financially being successful. It's always been that way. But with the way that it's working, Gamera wouldn't work
Wait,
as an anime.
I don't know. I don't know.
They could just focus a lot on human
Did
characters like they did.
Did the
in
anime trilogy do bad or good whenever it came
Bad.
to? It did horrible whenever it came to
City on
budget?
the Edge of Battle is the lowest.
Hey, do not speak of that name on this podcast, sir.
It's like
Hey, I'm
Voldemort.
bringing up. City on the Edge of Battle is the lowest film of all time.
But yeah, I mean, it could be that way. Or do you think? I gotta chill with these "do you think" questions. But Gamera, could he work in? I think he could most likely probably not work in some sort of, if it were to be in a way kind of directed, kind of like Godzilla the series did back in the 90s. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was the 90s. Yeah, back in those days when Godzilla the series was a thing. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty darn sure you've seen the series before. Correct?
I own it.
The thing
I think
He
with
owns the
Gamera
series,
is-
of course.
anything that Godzilla is doing in the modern day, I feel like Gamera is going to do too if they're able to, because of the fact that that's basically what Gamera is known for, is the
But
fact that
we
whatever
wanted-
Godzilla did, Gamera tried to
What
ride
if-
the tail of.
What if Gamera was aimed more towards children this time, because that's kind of what he was doing back in his Showa days when he was more
I mean,
lighthearted
as an
towards
anime,
children.
that would work, because
As an
anime is aimed towards children a lot of the times, especially in Japan. But I don't know. You guys
It
said,
could work.
Gamera
Mm.
tries to do what Godzilla does, but they only do it whenever it's in good health.
Mhm.
When Godzilla was
Actually-
dying, they stopped making Gamera movies. They made one last Gamera film after
And that was just-
Godzilla officially died.
And that,
And I'm pretty
was the
sure
Gam-
that
was
that
the
Gamera. I'm pretty sure that Gamera concept trailer came after 2014, didn't it?
Yes.
Probably
Yep.
a year
And
later,
Godzilla
or the same
2014 was... No, it was 2015.
2015.
I think they even admitted to the fact that they were trying to do it to ride off the coattails of Godzilla. Didn't they?
I mean, I don't remember, but Gamera comes in whenever Godzilla's doing good. In
Yeah.
anime, they didn't do good. It wasn't very good at all, so probably not a good idea to follow in those footsteps.
No, well, the thing is, Gamera's not done the brightest thing over the years, so
But yeah, or I know that he's had a couple games as well. I think there's Gamera 2000, and a little more recently City Shrouded in Shadow. Do you think if he had a little more of an approach like Godzilla did for PS4, I believe it was, I forgot the year, whether it was 2015. Yes, it was.
you can
2015.
also play the game where in the movie they use a Sega Dreamcast to measure what is it? What mana?
That was a Sega, yeah. Yeah. But do you think if a video game like that were to come out, do you think it would be kind of a success? Would it be kind of kind of not that good of a game like Godzilla was for PS4. Like me personally, I loved the movies growing up, but I hated the game. It was they could have done so much better things. Do you think if they were to probably learn from the mistakes and see Godzilla PS4 as a first-person giant monster game, do you think that could work with Gamera as well?
Maybe.
Gamera alone wouldn't do good. I feel like it would have to cross over.
The thing is, Gamera's known to sometimes do, like, whenever it comes to the 90s trilogy, they improved upon what Godzilla was doing at the time, but whenever it comes to both Showa and Brave, they didn't succeed in that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess it all depends on what team you have working on it.
Right. You think, this is going to get off topic, but you think Atari's going to get back on those Godzilla games pretty soon?
No.
I think so. They noticed. No, I think it's it wasn't Atari that noticed. Pipeworks noticed that Godzilla was in a lot of their suggestions, and they've taken notice. They just got to get Atari's approval for the games,
and they gotta get rights.
Yeah, they have to get rights too. But do you think it would have been good fan service there to remake those games maybe for PS4 today? I know a lot of people who would purchase that. But we are going to wrap up right here. This was a good discussion. I think we settled that Gamera can indeed work in a modern day setting, whether it's a remade film, possibly animation, maybe aimed towards younger kids, since that's kind of what Gamera was all about in the early films in the 70s. But this was a good discussion. I'm your host, Aztec Productions. You can find me on YouTube as Aztec Productions. Justus, where can we find you at?
You can find me on YouTube as Justus. You can find me on Twitter as Justus. And you can find me on Discord as Justus. But also, there's something else I would like to shout out really quick. Because earlier in the podcast, we were talking about music in Godzilla. There is a new Kickstarter for G-Fest to have another concert there. I forgot what it is called. Let me look it up really quick. Have either two of you heard about this?
No.
Yes.
Because of course I'm not attending.
Do you remember? Do you remember what it's called?
ET.
I do not. However, basically, while he's looking it up, it's where this whole orchestra comes to Chicago, and I believe they go to the Penwick Theater and they perform some of it's late, so I'm not thinking straight.
Akira Fukube. They've done this before, though?
Yes, they've done this only a few times before, but they come and play kind of like a medley of his best of. And I haven't seen it personally, but from what I've heard, it's amazing. And if you are going to G-Fest, I highly recommend, if you can, donate to this, because it's awesome from what I've seen the 2 times I've been. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go because they weren't there, I believe. But they're amazing from what I've heard. And Justus, do you have the name of it?
No, I do not, but I'll
Here,
put it in the description.
I got it. It is called I would like a drum roll. Okay, that's a great drum roll. It is the Kaiju Crescendo, an evening of Japanese monster music.
Wait, I thought it was called something else. I'm almost positive that's not what it's called. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure that's what
wait,
it's
the
called.
kicks.
And
the
if you
Kickstarter-
pay
The Kickstarter might
If
be
you pay for
called something else.
If you pay for G Fest, is this something outside of G Fest that you
Yes,
also
you.
have to get your
I
tickets
believe
for?
you must pay for it outside of that.
Well,
Okay, so
actually, you can pay $10. Or wait, I forgot how much it is, but you can pay a certain amount and get a digital download of the concert. So you don't necessarily have to be going to G Fest to get the rewards if you support a certain
But
amount.
it's not the same as seeing it
It's not the same.
right.
but you got the same music.
Anyways,
Go thanks for
support
the
that.
announcement, Justus.
Go support
Yes.
that. Uh, anyways, as we were saying our different shoutouts, ET, what would you like to say?
Where can we
Well,
find you
first
at?
of all, before we get to me, wherever you're listening to us, whether it's on Google Play, Radio Public, iHeart, Blueberry, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, iTunes, Castbox, Podcast Republic, Overcast, RSS Radio, Dogcatcher, Podcast Addict, Player FM Breaker, or any app connected to iTunes, if you can, give us a review. And if you do, we'll read it during one of our podcast episodes. That boosts our ratings and really lifts us up. So, any and all those are appreciated. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and comment down below what you thought of this episode. That really would make us very happy. And you can also, if you have any questions and don't have a social media, you can tweet us at Kaiju_Converse. That's at KAIJU_CONVERS.
Wait, you just said if you don't have a
Wait.
social media.
It's
Yeah.
it's okay. So my bad. It's late for me. If you do have social media, that's where you can find us. If you don't, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com. That's all lowercase and it's spelled exactly all one word. So if you would like to, you can find us that way. And I believe that's all the linking for the podcast. And then you can find me on YouTube as ET13 Productions. So I just said a lot of words.
Okay. So just as ET said, a review would really help us out. And a good idea, like he said, is we will read those on the podcast. It is nice to hear what people's thoughts are and how we could always improve for your entertainment. Now, this has been Kaiju Conversation, where we talk big every week.